Hi everyone, welcome to the first webinar of a series of webinars conducted by TCS Online in lieu of the upcoming strategic case study sessions happening in May and August 2022. My name is Nick and I'm the lead tutor and evaluator for SCS at TCS Online. Okay, so there are three webinars which we are conducting. In this webinar, I will be talking about exam prep, talking about what you need to do before the pre-scene is released. In webinar number 2, I will be conducting a pre-scene analysis. And in webinar number 3, I'll be taking you through exam technique. So in this session, as part of exam prep, as I told you earlier, I will be talking about what you need to do before the pre-scene is released. As you know, the pre-scene for the examination in May will be released next week, next Friday. So before next Friday, you have 7 days at your disposal. So you can do certain things to prepare yourself before the pre-scene is released. So that's what I'm gonna look at or cover in today's webinar. Having said that, let's move on. So let's look at the session outcome. So I will be talking about the exam structure, the marking criteria, because it's of utmost importance that we understand the psychology of the examiner so that we are in a position to gain good marks. So you need to have a good understanding about marking criteria. And on top of that, the examiner gives us certain best practice which we need to adhere to when preparing for a case study examination, particularly the strategic case study examination. So I will be taking you through examiner's comments. By looking at these comments, you are in a position to better understand what you need to do in order to gain good marks at your strategic case study. So let's look at the pathway to SCS. So most of the students come through the CIMA general route. This is a situation where the students had done their OTQ exams pertaining to E3, F3 and P3. And these students who are coming through the general route have done 2 case studies already, the operational case study as well as the management case study. So most of these students are really conversant about the study system adopted by CIMA when it comes to a case study. So that these are the first type of students coming into SCS, and a certain set of students come from the FLP route, the finance leadership program route as well. As you all know, this is an exemption route. So these students have not done the OTQ exams. Instead, they had completed their postgraduate studies or their masters, and through that or some other professional qualification which is relevant or related to finance, and they are just doing the strategic case study. So these are the 2 pathways to SCS. And let's look at the structure of the exam. Your exam is a PC based exam. So before the pandemic, you were supposed to go to an exam center and do your exam online. However, given the situation after the pandemic, or because we are still in the pandemic, you have the option of doing your exam at home rather than going to an examination center. So that's that. It's a 100% PC based examination, and your paper would go on for 3 hours, and your paper is divided into 3 main tasks, and each task carries a time allocation of 60 minutes each. So 60 minutes into 3 makes up your 3 hours. So all this time, if you had come through the general route of CIMA, in OCS and MCS, in the operational case study as well as in the management case study, you would have seen a time allocation of 45 minutes per task, but that's changing now. When it comes to the SCS examination, the allocated time is 60 minutes each per task. And in the OCS and MCS examinations, you had 4 tasks in one paper. However, at SCS, things are much easier. You have more time on your hands. You just need to provide answers to 3 tasks. So please be mindful about this change. And the pass mark is the same, 80 out of 150 or 54%. So let's look at an overview of the exam. Information is provided about a fictitious company in advance through a document called the pre-scene document. Okay, so information about fictitious company will be provided, information about its industry, the financial statements of the company, which is considered, as well as its closest competitor will be provided, so that we are supposed to carry out a financial analysis. And on top of that, information pertaining to the nitty-gritties or the internal dynamics or the internal operations of the company will be provided as part of the same pre-scene document. And at the very end of the pre-scene, the examiner provides you with additional reading material, and this reading material gives us a hint about what type of scenarios or questions can appear in your real exam. Okay, so all these information makes up all this information makes up the knowledge which you need to have when facing the strategic case study examination, because the entire examination is based on one single company. So I would ask you to attend the second webinar, which is happening next Saturday, where I'll be taking you through the pre-scene document. Note that I'm not covering the entire pre-scene document, but I'm just focusing on company operations, because it's students usually find it hard to decrypt the information pertaining to internal operations of the company. So it's better if you can better understand it. So I invite you to attend the second webinar, which is happening next Saturday. And as part of the same webinar, I will be conducting an industry analysis based on real life dynamics within the considered industry. So after the pre-scene is released, I'll be conducting that webinar. So in the exam, you are required to address issues or questions relating to operations of the company. So the examiner gives you a pre-scene document. So in that document, information pertaining to the history of the company, what the company is up to, what type of products or services the company is selling, what type of an organizational structure is there, and on top of that, what happens in various different departments, what happens in marketing, what happens in operations, what happens in finance. All these type of information will be provided. Then information pertaining to the industry dynamics will be provided, highlighting what type of customers we are dealing with, what type of competitors are there, what type of suppliers, what's the role of the government, or all these type of information will be provided. Additional reading material are provided, so to give us a better understanding about the industry dynamics as well as internal operations of the company. And at the very end, financial statements of your chosen company as well as its closest competitor will be provided, so that we are supposed to compare and see where we stand in a financial sense. So that is all about what has happened in the past within the company. However, when you go to the exam, the questions which you get are related to the present operations of the company. So the examiner is trying to replicate a real life corporate environment. So it's as if you go to office and your finance director sends you a email, and you are supposed, highlighting a certain issue the company has faced, and you are supposed to provide your recommendations or suggestions to get out of the problem or to improve something. Okay, so just like in a normal corporate environment, at the real exam, you would get issues pertaining to what's happening within the company at the moment. So when providing answers, when faced with issues, and when providing answers, you need to focus on two different things. The examiner tries to, through giving these questions, the examiner tries to understand whether you have an appropriate level of knowledge about the company as well as the industry. So you need to go through the pre-scene document to have a good understanding about the company as well as the industry. So just going through the pre-scene won't help you. You need to know how to apply your knowledge of E3, P3 and F3 where required as well. So you need to know your syllabus content or theoretical content pertaining to E3, P3, and F3. And on top of that, you need to decrypt the pre-seen document. You need to have a good understanding about the company as well as the industry. So again, I'm reiterating, you need to know your pre-seen as well as how to apply knowledge gained through E3, P3, and F3 related areas. So if you are not too comfortable with E3, P3, and F3, especially if you had come through the FLP route, you might feel that you need to go through E3, P3, and F3 related syllabus content. I will be talking about what you need to do when it comes to studying these theoretical content for the examination. So that's that. Let's try to figure out what your role is. You are playing the role of a senior finance manager. So this is a senior managerial role. You are part of the senior management team of the organization. So you are involved with strategic decision making. So as you all know, any organization is divided into three main areas. On top, at the very top, you get the strategic level. That's where the board of directors are. That's where the senior management team is. And the second layer is the tactical level, where you get the middle level management. And at the very lowest level, you get the operational level. You call it the operational level. And within the operational level, you get operational, finance officers as well as operational level managers who are involved with the day-to-day operations of the company. So as a senior finance manager, you are directly reporting to your finance director. So you are directly involved with strategic decision making, long-term decision making. So you don't have anything to do with daily operations of the company. You don't have anything to do with the tactical operations. Everything or the type of decisions which you need to take or the type of suggestions which you need to make are totally based on the long run of the company. So please be mindful about it. So, if you had done the operational case study, you might have encountered that you need to provide highly technical answers. But at the strategic level, that is not the case, because the finance director is not too concerned about theories. He or she does not want to hear about theories. Rather than that, when providing your answers, you need to have the capability to bring in theory without naming the theoretical components. So for instance, if you are doing a stakeholder analysis, if you're supposed to, your finance director is saying, okay, there's this type of a problem within the organization, and these stakeholders are affected by it. How are we supposed to manage these stakeholders? So in such a context, you are supposed to use the Mendelov matrix. However, when providing your answer, you are not supposed to mention that you are using the Mendelov matrix. Rather than naming the theoretical concept, what you need to do is you need to use the concept, but apply it to the company in a practical sense. Apply it to your answer in a practical sense. You'd understand what I'm talking about if you attend webinar number 3, where I'll be focusing on webinar number 3 is about answering technique. So I'll be taking you through a mini mock, which I myself have prepared, and I'll be taking you through the suggested answer as well. And I will be teaching you how methodology which you need to adhere to when developing something called an answer plan. So in answer planning, I'll tell you what type of a method you are supposed to adhere to when developing good answers for the strategic case study, and that's happening in the 3rd week. So I invite you to attend the 3rd and the last webinar, which is happening in another 2 weeks time. Having said that, a high level of application and practical thinking is expected for SCS. Yes. So as I told you earlier, in OCS, the technical knowledge was heavily tested. So practical thinking was extremely limited, because at the operational level, a finance officer, you are replicating the role played by the finance officer. So a finance officer is involved with day-to-day running of the company. However, as the senior finance manager, you are involved with the long run of the business. You are involved with long-term decision making. So theories are extremely limited. However, practical decision making is heavily tested. So you need to be practical at all times. You need to have the ability to apply theoretical knowledge, that is always there. However, technical knowledge is not heavily tested in your exam. Instead, the examiner is trying to figure out whether you can come up with practical decisions, whether you can come up with um, decisions which actually makes sense. And especially at the strategic level, when providing recommendations or suggestions, you need to at all times justify your answers. You can't just say, it's best that we shift to this costing system. You can't say that. You need to say, if you are recommending that we change the costing system, you need to say why we are supposed to do it. There could be an investment opportunity, and your finance director is asking you about financing options, whether we should go for debt or equity. You can't simply say we have to go for debt. If you are saying that, you have to back it up with your own arguments. When building an argument, you have to focus on the pros and cons. All these things I'll be covering in webinar number 3, answering technique. Right, so let's move on to the second part of today's webinar. I said that it's of utmost importance that you understand the psychology of the marker. That's exactly why I'm going to talk about marking criteria. So 2 markers will allocate marks before the final mark is finalized. So your paper will be marked by 2 individuals, and both these individuals will be providing you marks, and these 2 marks will be added and will be averaged out before determining your final mark. So why are 2 individuals marking the paper? To make sure that the quality of paper marking is upheld, to make sure that any undue bias is kept out. Okay, so that's something good. And mark allocation for each subtask appears as a percentage under each requirement. So as I told you earlier, your paper consists of 3 main tasks, and under each main task you would see subtasks. So in the strategic level, typically you would see 2 subtasks or 3 subtasks per main task. So under each subtask you would see a certain percentage being mentioned. So subtask A carries a weightage of 60%. What that means is, out of the total mark, 60% is allocated for the first subtask. So the same weightage gives you an indication about how much of marks are allocated, and based on the weightage you can determine how much of time you are supposed to allocate for each and every subtask. So this weightage can be used as a means of planning your answer, planning the content of your answer, because you can determine how much of marks are allocated. So based on the allocated marks, you are in a position to know how many points you are supposed to mention in your answer. And on top of that, this weightage can be used as a means of time management, because it gives us an indication about the amount of time allocated for each subtask. So you need to be a champion in this in order to master time management, as well as master the way in which you can gain marks. You need to attempt mock examinations. You need to know exam technique, answering technique, to be precise. So again, I'm asking you to attend the 3rd webinar, where I'll be talking about answering technique. And when allocating marks, the examiner allocates marks based on merit. So the examiner picks quality over quantity. So now, there are so many students who, after, attempting an exam, they are really confident. But once they get the results, they face a failure. And what they say is, I wrote paragraphs and paragraphs of answers, Still I ended up failing. Just because you write paragraphs and paragraphs of answers, just because you write lengthy answers, it does not mean that you are gonna get marks. Okay. Specifically, the examiner has mentioned that he or she is looking for quality over quantity. So you would be allocated marks based on the quality of your answer. What that means is the examiner tries to figure out whether you had fulfilled the needs of the task or fulfilled the requirement. Most of the time, what students would do is after reading the question, straight away they'd start typing the answer. That should be avoided, because you need to spend some time to plan the answer before you start typing fully fledged answers. Okay, so for planning you need to spend something like 20 to 25 minutes. All these things will be discussed in webinar number 3. Okay, so always remember, uh, providing lengthy answers won't help you pass the examination. Instead, you need to look at the requirement, look at the number of marks allocated, and based on the mark allocation you need to come up with relevant points in order to gain marks at your strategic case study examination. So that's about the marking criteria. Then let's move on to the third part of today's webinar, where I'll be taking you through examiner's comments. So the examiner gives us certain tips, and these are best practices. You need to adhere to them, to pass the examination. Okay, tips for future candidates. So the examiner is saying that good answers require relevance to the requirement. I highlighted that a while back. So your answers need to be totally relevant to the question which is provided in your paper. Just because a certain theoretical concept is tested, it does not mean that you are supposed to provide highly theoretical answers. You have to always relate your answer to the pre-seen as well as the question or the provided question, because remember, you are at the strategic level. You are a senior finance manager, and as a senior finance manager you need to have a good understanding about the company, what the company is up to, and what type of an industry we operate in, what type of stakeholders we operate with. And when providing answers, you need to bring in information from the pre-scene. You need to bring in information from the industry. So your answer needs to be relevant to the question as well as relevant to your company. So relevance, the examiner always looks at relevance when determining whether an answer is good or bad. Then you need to display necessary levels of technical knowledge. Okay, so you need to know your E3, P3 and F3 related areas. And let me tell you, the examiner at the strategic case study is predominantly focused on the E3 syllabus, because the E3 syllabus is all about strategy formulation, strategy evaluation and whatnot. So technical knowledge is tested. And on top of that, just having technical knowledge won't help you. You need to know how to apply that knowledge to the question as well as the considered scenario provided in the question. Okay, and you are supposed to provide well-structured answers. And when providing answers, you are supposed to use paragraphs. You are not supposed to provide answers in bullet points. You are not supposed to provide answers in single sentences. Instead, you need to provide answers in paragraphs. So there are certain technicalities which you need to adhere to when structuring your answer. I will be talking about these things in webinar number 3, answer technique. And as I told you earlier, you have to always justify your arguments. You can't just say that we are going to go for debt. You need to say why we are going for debt. Okay, so you need to look at the pros and cons, build an argument when trying to justify your answer. Right, so the examiner tells us what students are supposed to do before the exam. So before the exam, you are supposed to study all areas of syllabus. So I highlighted this point again earlier. You need to know your E3, P3 and F3 syllabus content, because the examiner is specifically mentioning that all students need to know the syllabus. And before the exam, you need to practice mock exams so that you know how to apply your knowledge, theoretical knowledge, to a given scenario highlighted in a question. And on top of that, when applying this knowledge, you need to bring in information from the preceding document as well. Okay, so when it comes to application of your knowledge, the examiner tells you to go through mock exams. The examiner wants you to practice mock exams, because without doing that, you can't excel in a case study examination. You can't straight away go just because you are you are really conversant with theoretical concepts or the preceding document. It does not mean that you would get good marks. You need to go through a process where you practice mock exams, which helps you excel at the real exam. So you have to apply to the scenario and practice tasks. So as I highlighted a while back, the examiner wants you to practice mock exams, and he also wants you to type or write full answers. So I've seen so many students who would adhere to a methodology where, rather than doing a 3-hour paper at a stretch, they would do certain parts, a certain subtask, a task, or whatever. That is not recommended, because the examiner wants you to type or write full answers. Okay, so when you are typing or writing full answers, what it means is you need to attempt a 3-hour paper at a stretch, thereby replicating a real life exam situation. Okay, so that's what you're supposed to do before the exam. Study all syllabus areas, understand how you're supposed to apply information to the scenario, and practice mock exams. That's what the examiner is telling you to do before the exam. Then during the exam, what are you supposed to do? You are supposed to plan your answers appropriately. So 60 minutes are allocated per task. So 20 to 25 minutes should be taken to plan your answer, and the remaining should be allocated towards typing your answers. So I will be talking about answer planning technique in webinar number 3, which is happening in another 2 weeks time. So during the exam, you are supposed to plan your answers appropriately, and the marker is under strict instructions to mark answers on their merits. So I highlighted this point earlier as well. The examiner, I highlighted this point earlier as well. The examiner looks at quality over quantity. Examiner prefers quality over quantity. Right. So, in order to get your answering technique right, in order to gain good marks, it's of utmost importance that you attempt mock exams. Well, I'm not the person who's saying it. The examiner has mentioned it as part of the examiner's report, which I referred to a while back. Okay. So what are the best practices when it comes to attempting mock exams? I would suggest you to attempt a minimum of 5 mock exams. Why? Because if you are to cover all syllabus content pertaining to F3, P3, and E3, then we have to come up with at least 5 mock exams. Okay, so I am, as the lead tutor of TCS, I've already prepared the 5 mock exams along with a mini mock, which I'll be sharing after the pre-scene is released. So after you go through these 5 mock exams as well as the mini mock, you'd cover the entire syllabus content. So you would feel really comfortable at the real exam, because once you have covered all the syllabus content through mock papers, then it's a matter of just attempting your examination. You have seen similar questions previously, so you can apply your knowledge easily. You would know how to tackle a question. So you have to attempt a minimum of 5 mock exams. And when attempting these 5 mock exams, the examiner asks you to practice under a simulated exam environment. So the examiner wants to replicate a real life exam scenario. So it's better if you can use a similar online platform. So CIMA uses the Pearson VUE platform. That's where you are supposed to type your answers or attempt your questions. So it's better if you can use a similar online platform. We at TCS provide these services because we had come up with a platform which is almost akin to the Pearson VUE system, so that uh, the students have the capability of practicing all 5 mocks on our online mock exam platform. And the examiner wants you to attempt mocks at the same time of the day, compared to when you had booked your exam. So for instance, let's assume you had booked your exam from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. So when attempting mocks, the examiner is suggesting it's better if you can attempt mocks from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. so that you psychologically you get accustomed to the exam situation. Okay. And the examiner wants you to in your quest towards replicating a real life exam situation, what I would suggest you to do is try to isolate yourself away from disturbances. Tell your family members that you are doing a mock paper for 3 hours. Keep away your phone. Okay. Then put in quality time, put in 3 hours in its entirety, and do one mock paper. So if you adhere to this type of methodology, and if you do 5 mock exams, if you attempt 5 mock exams under a simulated exam environment, then you would feel really comfortable at the examination, real examination. Okay. So when you are attempting each and every mock, I said I'll be talking about answer planning technique. So when you are attempting each and every mock, I'm asking you to replicate what I would suggest in the third webinar. So once you keep on replicating the same process 5 times, thereby attempting 5 mock exams, you would be a champion at it. So you would find it extremely easy to manage your time, and you would find it extremely easy to structure your answers based on the weightages provided, which will help you gain better marks and definitely pass the strategic case study examination, which is coming up in May. And it's better if you can seek personalized feedback, especially if you are coming through the FLP route. Now, there are 2 types of students. A set of students are there who are really conversant with the OTQ content, E3, P3, and F3. They might have aced the OTQ exams. And these type of students are usually comfortable with self-study. So if you are a student like that, you need not actually seek personalized feedback, because you can go through, you can attempt your mocks on your own, and go through the suggested answers, and you are in a position to compare between the suggested answer and the answer which you have provided, thereby understanding your shortcomings. You can do it on your own if you are really comfortable with self-study. But there are another set of students who are not too really comfortable with self-study. And if that is the case, it is recommended that you seek personalized feedback. Okay. Especially if you are coming through the FLP route, because FLP is an exemption route. Most of the students who are doing the SCS, who are coming from the FLP route, they are doing only the strategic case study examination. That's the only examination which they are attempting. So in such a context, you are not in a position, or you are not too conversant with the study system, as well as the syllabus content and the examination structure adopted by CIMA. So it's better to seek personalized tutor feedback, because I myself will be marking your papers. So I will be providing feedback to you guys. So if you want to improve yourself, if you think that you are not too comfortable, if you feel that your answers are not too good, or if you had failed previously, then it's recommended to seek personalized feedback. And practice builds thinking, speed, and confidence. So practice, practice, and practice. If you practice at least 5 mock exams, you'd figure out that your thinking speed has increased, your thinking capabilities have increased, and with that, your confidence will increase. Now, we are offering 5 mock exams. When you are attempting the first 2 mocks, it would be a bit jittery. you would find it really hard to get your bearings. However, from mock 3 onwards, since you had already attempted 2 mock exams, from mock 3 onwards, you would see an improvement in the way you think, an improvement in the way with regards to the type of answers, the quality of answers which you are providing. And if you seek personalized feedback, I will be providing marks as well as comments so that you can improve what you are doing. So practice builds thinking speed and confidence, and do not reproduce suggested answers in the exam. I've seen a set of students who think that attempting 5 mock exams and memorizing the suggested answers would help them at the exam. That is not the case, because the exam is trying to replicate a real life corporate environment in your exam. So in such a context, in a real life corporate environment, when you go to office, you won't know the type of problems which will be thrown at you. You won't know what your finance director is telling you, what type of suggestions or recommendations you are supposed to make. So when working in a corporate environment, you can't memorize anything, you can't memorize solutions. So the same applies to the strategic case study as well. You are not supposed to go through replicate suggested answers or memorize suggested answers. Instead, just go through the mocks, try to figure out the type of answers provided, and at the real exam, you need to do your own job. You need to come up with your own answers. Okay, so these are the best practices when it comes to attempting mock exams. Right. So having said that, let me talk about what we offer at TCS. We offer 2 main packages. Package number 1 is called the Essential Pack. This consists of full pre-scene analysis videos. So these pre-scene analysis videos are divided into 4 main areas. Video number 1 will be about an introduction. We'll provide an introduction to the pre-scene. Video number 2 will be about company operations. Video number 3 is about industry dynamics. And in video number 4, I will be talking about the finances of the chosen company as well as its closest competitor. So going through these 4 videos, after going through these 4 videos, you would understand, you'd have the type of knowledge which you require to comfortably pass the strategic case study. And we are providing something called an annotated pre-scene as well. So our annotated pre-scene, in that, what we do is we provide suggestions, we highlight certain areas which can appear in your examination, the syllabus content or the syllabus areas which can be tested. We take out the most important parts. So it's actually a summary, a study summary, as well as we are highlighting probable areas or theoretical concepts which can be tested. So going through this annotated pre-scene and going through these full pre-scene analysis videos would make sure that you have a good understanding about the industry as well as the company based on which the strategic case study examination is going to be held. And we have a separate set of slides for industry analysis as well. So these industry analysis slides contain information pertaining to the real life dynamics of your chosen industry. So I will be, as part of this, I will be talking about the revenue figures, market shares, what drives the market, segment related information, the type of stakeholders we are dealing with. And on top of that, at the very end, I'll be taking 2 companies which are akin to the fictitious company used in your pre-scene, as well as I'll be taking another company which is akin to the competitor which is mentioned in the pre-scene. So knowing the 2 companies, real life companies, and how they operate will help you better understand industry dynamics, and it will help you when it comes to the SCS exam. So that's that. And the most important product which we are offering is the 5 exam standard mock exams with suggested answers. So as I told you earlier, and as the examiner has mentioned, it's of utmost importance that you go through mock examinations. and I've covered all syllabus content pertaining to E3, P3, and F3 in these mock exams. Then there are a set of slides pertaining to financial analysis, because the examiner provides the statement of profit and loss, statement of financial position, and statement of changes in equity of the chosen company and its as well as its closest competitor. So you need to evaluate numbers or compare numbers between the two companies and figure out where we stand, and based on that we need to take certain decisions. So there are a separate set of slides for financial analysis as well. And we are suggesting top 20 likely issues or scenarios or questions which can appear in the examination, so that you can prepare focused on these areas. You can, polish your theoretical knowledge. Then there is an SCS familiarization kit. Especially this can be used by students who are coming through the FLP route, which gives about the technical, which provides technical details pertaining to the SCS exam. And if you would have access to a WhatsApp discussion forum as well, and via this forum you can get in touch with like-minded colleagues. You can raise your concerns, raise your questions, get answers, share your answers with each other. And on top of that, this WhatsApp discussion forum is moderated by myself and two other lead tutors of TCS. So you can reach us directly via the WhatsApp discussion forum, and you have the option of direct messaging us as well. And we provide something called a pass guarantee as part of the essential pack. So if by any chance you purchase our product or purchase our services and end up failing the exam, which is not going to happen, it's highly unlikely. However, if such a scenario comes into the picture, then you would have access to the content which is relevant to the next examination, free of subsequent examination, free of charge. Okay, so that's all you'd get under the essential pack, and the investment is £99. And the second pack is called the value pack. So the value pack consists of all what is offered under the essential pack. In addition to the essential pack, you would be gaining access to an online mock exam platform. So I highlighted that CIMA uses the Pearson VUE system, VUE platform. Okay, so we had developed a similar platform so that our students can practice under real life exam conditions, because there would be a timer stipulating the total time as well as the time allocated for each subtask. And on top of that, once you are done with the task, once the time expires, you can't go back and edit your answers or whatever. So you have to sit in one place and attempt the entire mock exam at a stretch, taking 3 hours of your time. And if you do it via the exam platform, you are getting accustomed to real exam conditions. And on top of that, we are offering professional marking and feedback on 3 mocks 3, 4, and 5 under the value pack. And this feedback will be provided by myself, and in-depth feedback is provided so that you improve your improve the quality of your answers. Then theory recaps are also provided pertaining to E3, F3, and P3 related areas, especially if you're coming through the FLP route, since you need to get your bearings about the CIMA strategic case study examination. I would suggest you go for the value pack, because you need feedback, you need guidance every step of the way, and you need access to theory recaps because you have not done your OTQ examinations. And on top of that, if you had failed the strategic case study examination previously, again I would suggest that you go for the value pack, because you are gaining professional marking and feedback. Okay, so that's that. And this carries a pass guarantee as well, and the investment would be £199. Right. So that brings our webinar to an end. Before we wind up, any questions, guys? Any questions or any issues, any areas which you did not understand? You can raise these concerns. If you want, you can switch on your mic and talk, or else you can post your concern or question on the chat section.
Mr. Nick, can I talk?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, I went through that the first option, the value pack, not the value pack, the previous one. It's
Essential pack, yes.
essential pack, yeah. Could you kindly, I think you are having my email address already. So could you kindly send me the detail for that? So I'm pretty interested. I really prefer to go through the essential one, sorry,
Okay.
the value pack. But right now I have already joined with another class.
Right.
Therefore, they are providing the same features, but the one that you have mentioned, the essential pack, it is pretty interesting to me.
Okay. Okay. So what I will do is your name is James, yeah?
Don James, yeah. But my email goes in a different name, like Rukshanta.
Right, that's totally fine, because you know, since you have I think you filled up the Google form and registered, so
Yeah, sure.
so then definitely I have your email address, so I'll be sending you an email with all the necessary information, and a recorded session of this webinar will be shared with you, and on top of that, all the free content which we provide will be shared with you via email. All right.
Thank you very much. I have already mentioned my email address.
Yes. I got it. Thank you very much.
My contact number as well.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Anything else, folks? Anything else, James?
In fact, time being no. So would you be able to inform me through the email then when is the next session happening, this and that?
Yes, definitely. So, James, are you part of our WhatsApp discussion forum?
No, not at all.
Right. Okay. So I will be sending an email probably tomorrow with all this necessary information. So just join our group, and I will be sharing information as well as login details pertaining to the next session, which is happening on Saturday, because your pre-scene is released on Friday. After that only I'm doing the pre-scene analysis session. All right. So
You mean next week on like 7th?
Yes, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. So that's a Saturday. That's a Saturday.
Wow, that's great. Exciting.
Right. So anything else, folks? Right. Seems like there aren't any questions. So you can contact us. You can visit our website, which is www.study@tcs.com, or you can email us or WhatsApp us through this number. And you can follow us on our social media handles. And especially, I would ask you to go to our website and go through the blog posts, because I've not stipulated about theoretical content pertaining to the syllabus areas of the operational management or strategic level. You know, I've not done that. However, all the blog posts are focused on the technicalities which you need to know to pass your case study examination in the first sitting. Okay, so I would ask you to go to our website and go to blog posts and read the articles which are there. And on top of that, I will be sharing these articles as and when necessary on our WhatsApp discussion forum. So please be part of the WhatsApp discussion forum as well. Concluding thoughts: approach SCS as an opportunity to learn rather than an exam to pass. So thank you, guys. Thank you very much for joining in.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Welcome. So I expect to meet you guys again next Saturday when I'm doing the pre-scene analysis. It's of utmost importance that you join it. so that you have a better understanding about the company. So I invite you to join it, and it will be carried out free of charge as well. So thanks, guys. Take care.
Thanks,
See you.
Mr.
Good night.
Good night. Thanks. Bye.